A man who gave his best leaves quietly when disrespected, taking his love, trust, and loyalty with him. Women are left with silence, regret, and the harsh truth that true hearts are rare. Respect lost cannot be reclaimed, and the void he leaves becomes a lifelong lesson. Good men are the ones who show their love not through grand gestures that seek attention, but through quiet consistency that often goes unnoticed. They remember the little things, the way you like your coffee, the way you sigh when something is wrong, the moments you thought were too small to matter. They invest in your happiness, in your comfort, in the life you share, not because they want praise or recognition, but because their hearts simply cannot do otherwise. They are the kind of men who will stay up late listening to your worries, who will quietly fix what's broken without complaint, who will sacrifice without expectation. They love in ways that are subtle, unassuming, and often invisible to those who are too busy seeking flashes of excitement rather than steady warmth. Yet, this quiet investment can be misunderstood. People sometimes think that because a man is calm, steady, and patient, he is limitless in his endurance, that his love is endless no matter the circumstances. They forget that even the strongest hearts have limits. A good man's patience is not a weakness, it is a measure of his respect for the people he loves. But disrespect, disregard, and ungratefulness chip away at his spirit slowly, like a gentle river eroding stone, until one day he decides to leave. And when he does, he leaves without fanfare. There is no shouting, no dramatic scene, no desperate pleading. He walks away with the same quiet dignity with which he gave his love. This silence is not empty, it is full of meaning. It is the voice of all the times he forgave silently, all the times he covered for mistakes that weren't his, all the moments he gave without being asked. It is the sound of love withdrawing, not because it has disappeared, but because it has been disrespected to the point where it cannot flourish. And it is here, in this silence, that the gravity of his absence is felt most deeply. It is a void that loud voices cannot fill, a quiet echo that teaches the hardest lessons. When a good man leaves silently, he leaves a mirror behind, reflecting all that was taken for granted, all that was misunderstood, and all that was unappreciated. People often mourn the presence of loud, dramatic departures, but the silent exit of a good man is far more devastating because it leaves no chance for reconciliation, no room for last-minute promises, no opportunity to beg him to stay. By the time the absence is recognized, the heart has already made its choice, and nothing can reverse it. Love that was given quietly, with patience and care, cannot be summoned back by regret or guilt. It was nurtured in silence, and its departure is equally silent, unnoticed until it becomes impossible to ignore. The truth is, the world seldom applauds quiet devotion. It celebrates flashy gestures and dramatic declarations, yet overlooks the depth of love that asks for nothing, demands nothing, and endures everything. The good man invests quietly because he knows love is an action, not a performance. But when his heart is trampled, when respect is denied, when his care is met with indifference, he leaves silently, not because he wants to hurt, but because he knows that some hearts are too precious to be wasted. And in that quiet leaving, he teaches the hardest lesson of all. Love, when genuine, cannot be forced, and patience, when exhausted, becomes the silence of goodbye. Trust is not built in a day, and neither is it destroyed in a moment. It grows quietly, almost invisibly, in the small acts of care, honesty, and consistency that a person shows over time. When someone gives their best, when they stand by you in the dark moments, when they believe in you, even when you doubt yourself, trust takes root. It becomes a delicate yet resilient thread, weaving two hearts together with shared understanding, respect, and vulnerability. And yet, it is also fragile. Disrespect, even in small doses, chips away at that trust like a slow leak that eventually empties a full reservoir. It is rarely the grand betrayals that break trust completely, but the repeated disregard of feelings, the quiet dismissals, the jokes that belittle, the careless words spoken in passing, the moments when one chooses self-interest over the sanctity of another's heart. Disrespect does not always announce itself loudly. It often hides behind sarcasm, neglect, or subtle acts that seem insignificant at first. But each time a good man's care is met with impatience, each time his efforts are ignored, each time his heart is treated as a given rather than a gift, trust erodes a little more. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the foundation begins to weaken. He begins to question whether his love is valued, whether his presence matters, whether his sacrifices are seen at all. It is not sudden anger that corrodes trust. It is the quiet accumulation of small wounds, the countless moments of feeling unseen, unheard, and unappreciated that hollow out the heart. The cruel thing about slow erosion is that it often goes unnoticed by the person causing it. They continue, perhaps oblivious, believing that love is endless, that the heart they mistreat will always forgive, always bend, always remain. But love is not infinite, and patience, however strong, has limits. A man who has trusted, who has loved deeply, will continue to invest until the pattern becomes undeniable, until the constant disrespect convinces him that his care is being devalued. At that point, the erosion turns into a decision, a quiet, resolute choice to step away, to protect his heart, to reclaim his dignity. And when that happens, the silence of his absence is deafening because trust, once lost, cannot easily be restored. Disrespect not only weakens the bond, but leaves a lingering scar. The pain of realizing that one has failed to honor the person who gave their best is profound. It teaches a harsh lesson. Trust, like love, is precious, and every careless word or act is a betrayal of the gift it represents. Those who fail to recognize it often live with the quiet echo of what they lost, while the person they disrespected moves on, carrying the dignity they preserved and the wisdom of never allowing themselves to be devalued again. Disrespect is slow, subtle, and often ignored, but its consequences are absolute and enduring, leaving only the bitter truth that once trust is fractured, the heart remembers every crack, every omission, and every moment that could have been different. Regret is a heavy companion, one that often arrives only after the damage has been done, when the person who mattered most has already chosen to walk away. It does not knock politely or announce its presence in time for correction. It comes quietly, creeping into moments of reflection, uninvited and unavoidable. A woman who disrespects a man who gave his best may not feel the weight of her actions in the moment. She may dismiss his sacrifices, overlook his patience, or take his love for granted, believing that it will always be there, unwavering and limitless. She forgets that genuine hearts are not inexhaustible, that patience has its boundaries, and that respect is the currency of love that, once spent carelessly, cannot simply be reclaimed. When the absence finally hits, when the man who gave everything chooses silence over confrontation, the realization comes too late. Regret does not have the power to rewind time or restore trust. It cannot undo the nights he stayed awake worrying about her, the mornings he smiled despite exhaustion, the countless times he forgave without being asked, or the moments he set her happiness above his own. All that remains is the echo of what was lost and the bitter knowledge that she could have held onto a treasure, but instead let it slip away. This is the cruel paradox of regret. It teaches the hardest lessons only when the opportunity to act wisely has already passed. The tragedy of regret is that it is born from awareness, but awareness is often delayed. In the heat of daily life, in the comfort of taking love for granted, the significance of small actions or small neglects is overlooked. The man who gave his best is patient and enduring, and it is easy to believe that his heart will always endure the slights, the indifference, and the careless words. Yet the quiet strength of a good man is not inexhaustible. Eventually, the accumulation of disrespect, of disregard, and of ungratefulness leads to a point where he can no longer stay, where continuing to love becomes a compromise of self-worth. By the time the woman realizes the gravity of what she has done, the chance to make amends is gone. Regret, when it arrives, is heavy with sorrow. It lingers in the mind and the heart, reminding one of choices that cannot be undone. It may bring tears in the silence of the night, pangs of longing for what can never return, and an aching recognition that the man she disrespected will not stand by again. No words can undo the erosion of trust. No gestures can revive the patience that was tested, and no pleas can retrieve the dignity he preserved by leaving. Regret is a mirror reflecting the truth that was ignored, a truth that hits hardest when there is no one left to receive apologies, no opportunity left to show appreciation, no time left to recognize what was truly valuable. In the end, regret is a lesson dressed in sorrow. It comes too late, not because love was insufficient, but because it was unrecognized. It comes too late, not because forgiveness was impossible, but because respect was ignored. And it comes too late because once a good man leaves, he carries with him the best of what he gave, leaving only the echo of absence, the weight of realization, and the harsh truth that some hearts, once disrespected, do not return. A man's silence speaks in ways that words never could. It is not emptiness, it is a language of the heart, a message written in absence, in pauses, in the spaces where conversation once flowed freely. When a man who has loved deeply chooses to stop speaking, it is not because he has nothing left to say, but because he has said everything that needed to be said. His silence carries the weight of patience tested, of boundaries crossed, of trust eroded, and of love that has been taken for granted. It is the culmination of all the moments when he forgave quietly, when he endured without complaint, when he invested without being asked. And when that silence falls, it speaks volumes, louder than any argument, louder than any tear, louder than any desperate plea for attention. Words can be hollow, they can be dismissed, they can be twisted or ignored, but silence has a truth that cannot be denied. When a good man walks away without speaking, without dramatics, without fanfare, he is sending a message that cannot be misunderstood. He has given all that he can, and now he must protect his heart. His absence of words becomes an undeniable statement of self-respect. It forces reflection, it forces recognition, and it forces an acknowledgement of what was lost. A man's silence is not passive. It is active, deliberate, and profoundly powerful. It conveys disappointment without anger, sorrow without spectacle, and boundaries without confrontation. It teaches lessons that shouting never could. The people around him may misinterpret his silence at first. They may call it indifference, coldness, or weakness, but those who truly understand know that it is the culmination of countless unspoken sacrifices and endless patience. His quiet departure is not the absence of feeling. It is the presence of wisdom, of knowing when to let go, of knowing when love is no longer received with the respect it deserves. The louder he remains in presence, the more he risks being ignored. So he chooses silence, not as a weapon, but as a mirror, reflecting the truth that words failed to convey, revealing the gravity of the love that was undervalued, and illuminating the emptiness left by disrespect. Silence also gives space for reflection. It leaves a void that cannot be filled by excuses, by promises, or by apologies spoken too late. It forces the other person to confront the reality of their choices, to feel the weight of their actions, and to face the consequences of taking genuine love for granted. It is a language that requires understanding, a language that demands introspection, and a language that leaves a mark that words never could. In this way, a man's silence becomes a teacher. It teaches respect, patience, and awareness. It teaches the value of love, the consequences of negligence, and the strength of a heart that knows when to speak and when to withdraw. His silence is louder than words because it is absolute. It is the quiet declaration that love, no matter how deep, cannot thrive where it is disrespected. It is the echo of all he has given and all he will no longer give. And in that silence, the truth is undeniable. Love that is not cherished will leave quietly, and when it does, the absence speaks louder than anything ever could. Emotional absence is often misunderstood, mistaken for coldness, indifference, or weakness. People assume that a man who withdraws emotionally is lacking in feeling, that his distance is a reflection of apathy or fear. But the truth is far deeper than appearances suggest. Emotional absence is not a flaw. It is a statement of strength, of self-preservation, and of understanding the value of one's own heart. A man who has loved deeply and given everything he could may choose to step back, not because he no longer cares, but because he recognizes that his love is not being honored. He understands that vulnerability, when met with disrespect, becomes a burden rather than a gift, and he chooses to protect the sanctity of his own soul. This absence is a boundary, a quiet assertion that love cannot exist in imbalance. For years, he may have invested wholeheartedly, offering patience, loyalty, and kindness without hesitation. He has been present in ways that others may not fully comprehend, listening when no one else would, forgiving when it would have been easier to walk away, sacrificing without expectation of reward. And yet, when these efforts are dismissed, when respect is ignored, when care is met with disregard, he begins to withdraw. It is not because he has stopped feeling. It is because he has learned the value of his own heart and understands that continuing to give without reciprocity diminishes the very love he offers. Emotional absence is deliberate, purposeful, and often invisible to those who fail to recognize it. It is a language of self-respect. It tells the other person that love is meaningful only when it is honored, and that true devotion cannot survive in a vacuum of appreciation. A man who withdraws emotionally does so because he has exhausted the possibilities of teaching, guiding, and nurturing. He has given every opportunity for connection, and when those chances are met with indifference, he understands that silence and distance are necessary. His absence communicates more than words ever could. It speaks of disappointment, of dignity, and of lessons learned through patience and care. This form of emotional withdrawal is not a retreat into weakness. It is a testament to strength. It requires courage to step back, to resist the urge to beg for attention, to protect one's own heart rather than subject it to further disregard. It requires clarity to distinguish between what can be changed and what cannot, between love that is returned and love that is wasted. Those who misinterpret it as coldness fail to see the depth of feeling behind the absence, the careful consideration, the quiet heartbreak, and the intentional decision to value oneself over remaining in a relationship that erodes rather than nurtures. Emotional absence is a reflection of integrity, not fragility. It is a reminder that love, when genuine, must be respected, and that those who give their best will not sacrifice their worth for indifference. It teaches the harshest lessons, not through anger or confrontation, but through quiet withdrawal, demonstrating that boundaries matter, dignity matters, and self-respect is the ultimate form of love. And when he steps back, he leaves a truth that cannot be ignored. Absence does not signify weakness. It signifies the courage to protect the heart that has given everything. Healing is not something that can be forced or rushed. It begins quietly, often in moments of painful self-reflection, when one finally understands the role they played in the unraveling of love and trust. Too often, people look outward for blame, pointing fingers, rationalizing their actions, or convincing themselves that the other person was at fault. But true healing begins when responsibility is embraced, when the heart acknowledges its mistakes, its neglects, and its failures to honor the love that was given. Without this understanding, sorrow lingers, wounds fester, and lessons remain unlearned. To heal is not merely to feel regret. It is to recognize the choices that led to loss and to confront them with honesty and humility. When a woman disrespects a man who gave his best, the damage is not always immediate or obvious. The love he offered may have been constant, patient, and unwavering, and she may not have realized the depth of her disregard until he steps away. And when that absence becomes real, the instinct is often to cry, to feel sorrow, or even to search for excuses. Yet, none of this leads to true restoration. Only when she takes responsibility for her actions, when she sees the care she ignored, the patience she tested, and the respect she withheld, can the process of healing begin. Responsibility is not about punishment or guilt. It is about clarity, about recognizing the truth of one's behavior and its consequences. It is the bridge between regret and growth. Responsibility brings accountability, which is essential for emotional maturity. It allows one to look at the relationship with honesty, to see where respect was lacking, and to understand the weight of what was lost. Without it, healing is superficial, an attempt to soothe pain without addressing its root. A heart that refuses to acknowledge its part in a breakdown cannot truly recover, for the lessons it needs to carry forward are left unexamined. Accepting responsibility is an act of courage. It requires one to face uncomfortable truths about selfishness, negligence, or thoughtlessness. It demands introspection and the willingness to change, rather than merely lament what is gone. Understanding responsibility also transforms grief into wisdom. Once a woman recognizes the role she played in pushing away someone who gave his best, she begins to see love not as a right, but as a gift. She learns that care must be reciprocated, respect must be maintained, and patience should never be taken for granted. The weight of this understanding is heavy, yet it is liberating. It frees the heart from endless cycles of blaming others and allows it to focus on growth, on becoming someone worthy of genuine love in the future. Healing, therefore, is not found in apologies alone, nor in hoping for second chances. It is found in taking ownership, in understanding responsibility, and in learning from the past. It is the quiet acknowledgement that love is sacred, that hearts are fragile, and that growth comes when one stops shifting blame and starts facing truth. Only then can the wounds begin to mend, the lessons become clear, and the heart prepare to love again with awareness, respect, and integrity. Loss has a way of stripping away illusions and revealing truths we often avoid in moments of comfort. When a good man, one who has given his best, is disrespected and leaves, the emptiness that follows is profound. It is in this absence that a woman begins to understand the weight of what she took for granted, the value of patience, and the depth of care that was once her constant companion. Loss does not just create sorrow. It teaches lessons that pride and comfort could never impart. It humbles the heart, forcing acknowledgement of mistakes and recognition of what has truly been lost. Humility is born from understanding that love is not an entitlement. When a man who has loved sincerely steps away, it is a reminder that hearts are delicate and that trust and respect are not infinite. No amount of charm, manipulation, or excuses can replace genuine devotion. Loss forces one to look inward, to see the ways in which actions or inaction may have contributed to the breaking of a bond. It reveals moments of selfishness, impatience, or disregard, and it asks a difficult question. If love was given freely and fully, why was it not honored? In this reflection, humility grows, not as a punishment, but as a necessary realization that one must never take care, patience, or loyalty for granted. Along with humility comes discernment. Loss teaches the heart to recognize what is truly valuable, to distinguish between fleeting affection and enduring love. It trains the mind to see beyond surface appearances and to understand the difference between someone who merely says, I care, and someone who shows it quietly, consistently, and unconditionally. A woman who has experienced the departure of a man who gave his best begins to recognize the rarity of such love and the seriousness with which it should have been treated. Discernment allows the heart to become wiser, to identify not just the actions of others, but also the signs of genuine commitment, patience, and respect that were ignored before. Loss also cultivates empathy and awareness. When a good man walks away, the emptiness he leaves behind is a mirror reflecting not only what was lost, but also what was never fully appreciated. The heart begins to see the depth of care, the sacrifices made silently, the patience exercised, and the dignity maintained. In learning to feel the weight of these things, one gains a profound understanding of what it means to love selflessly, to invest without expectation, and to respect someone's heart wholly. Loss is a teacher that cannot be avoided. It humbles, it instructs, and it illuminates the truth that genuine love is rare and must be valued while it is present. Through loss, the heart learns patience, gratitude, and awareness, and it becomes more capable of honoring love in the future. It is a painful but necessary journey, one that turns regret into insight, sorrow into wisdom, and absence into a lesson that shapes not only who we love, but how we love in every moment that follows. Some truths do not fade with time, and some lessons do not lose their weight, no matter how much the heart wishes they would. The truth is eternal, and it often comes into sharpest focus when one has lost someone who gave their best. When a good man who loved deeply, cared endlessly, and invested quietly is disrespected and walks away, the reality of what has been lost remains with a woman long after the pain of absence begins to settle. No apology, no excuse, and no passing moment can erase the clarity that eventually arrives. Love that is not respected cannot endure, and care that is unvalued leaves a permanent mark on the soul. This is a truth that time cannot change, and no amount of longing can alter its permanence. The permanence of truth lies in its unchanging nature. A man who gives his all does so with sincerity, patience, and integrity. His love is not conditional upon grand gestures or dramatic affirmations. It is steady, unwavering, and enduring. When it is met with indifference, when it is met with disrespect, it does not disappear silently. It withdraws thoughtfully, purposefully, and irrevocably. A woman may only recognize it when the absence becomes undeniable, when the spaces he once filled are suddenly empty, and when the warmth he offered quietly is no longer present. That recognition, though delayed, carries with it the eternal truth that genuine hearts are rare and must be honored while they are present. The lessons embedded in this truth are equally eternal. They teach that respect and appreciation are the foundations of meaningful love, that patience cannot be assumed, and that the willingness to give everything must be met with gratitude and recognition. They remind us that actions or inaction have consequences that cannot be avoided, and that taking love for granted is a choice with enduring repercussions. The truth does not bend to convenience, desire, or wishful thinking. It persists in silence, in reflection, in the emptiness left by someone who chose self-respect over continued mistreatment. It is a quiet but undeniable presence that shapes the way we love, the way we value others, and the way we understand our own hearts. In the end, the lessons of love, respect, and loss are clear. A good man gives quietly, loves deeply, and leaves silently when his heart is disrespected. Regret may come, but it arrives too late. Silence speaks louder than words. Absence teaches humility, and emotional boundaries are acts of strength. Healing begins only when responsibility is embraced, and the truths left behind are eternal. What remains is a reflection of what was taken for granted, a reminder that genuine love is rare, and a call to honor it while it is still present. The story of a heart given fully and a heart left behind is not just a tale of loss. It is a mirror, a lesson, and a guide for every soul who seeks to love wisely, respect deeply, and cherish the hearts that trust them most.